Welcome to Business Prowess with Rafael and Dr. Andrea. Our show will bring you the best insights, ideas, and inspiration from successful entrepreneurs and CEOs in the business world. Don't miss out on the opportunity to learn from the best and stay ahead of the game. Sifu Rafael is the founder of 5 Unique Shows. He's a fitness professional, solutions expert, executive coach, and head instructor at Max Martial Arts and Fitness in New York. Dr. Andrea Adams Miller is an award-winning international keynote speaker, best-selling author, and CEO of the Red Carpet Connection Publicity, Publishing, and Talent Agency, and CEO of IgniteYourRelationship.com. Known as the Dream Maker, she makes visionaries' dreams come true, bigger than they ever dare to desire.
Wow, Greg, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you, my friend?
Excellent, Sifu. Another beautiful day in the neighborhood, and I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Dr. Andrea. She's actually on vacation, so have a great time. And we can't wait for you to come back and share the stories with us. So today I am so thrilled to bring everybody Gregory Mohr. Am I saying your name correctly?
Exactly right, Sifu.
Thank you. So you sent me a book and I read the book and I'm reading it and sometimes you know what I do is I reread it because your book is one that I think we need to reread more than once because you have such powerful information. But before we get into your book and even why you decided to write this incredible book, let's talk about the real freedom and building wealth with you, my friend. What does that mean?
So real freedom to me, Sifu, what that means is that being able to do what you want to do when you want to do it. And that was always my dream as well. After 30 years in the corporate world, you know what, when I was a microelectronic circuit engineer, I was there 7 to 5. And they wanted you right there in that office from 7 to 5, Monday through Friday and, occasionally on weekends. So I wanted the freedom to do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted to do it. And that's why I got into the franchising world, got my own franchise for a while, and then got into franchise consulting because now I set my own schedule.
That is freedom, isn't it? To set your own schedule, to do it when you want to. And I guess choice, we all have a choice. We can choose to go to work at 9 to 5 or 7 to 5 like you were doing. But when we're there, the choices are not necessarily our own. We have to abide, otherwise we get fired.
Yeah, very true. And that was my thing. They kind of looked at you funny if you took too long for lunch or if you left before 5 o'clock. They were like, "What are you doing? You got to be sitting at your desk." And it's like, man, there's got to be something better out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when I was working at a company, and they would come and I would be there super early, and then they came one day and they said, "Hey, we need this." I used to do architectural drawings. We need this drawing by tomorrow at 4 o'clock. I was the guy that did the drawings that were put in the magazines. So if you ever looked at Architectural Digest, if you ever saw the architectural drawings, not an image, but an actual drawing, it used to be done by what we call a rapidograph. It's inking. And I used to do my Mylar and plastic paper. And it was pretty crazy. And they said, "You need this. We need it by 4 o'clock." I'm like, "Oh, no problem." So what happened is a new company had taken over. And our new bosses said, I said, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to go. I need extra," because they were fine tips and they break you use them one time, they were done, right? So every time when they wanted a drawing for a magazine, I would have to go, "Okay, I need a couple of these pens. I got to go downstairs and buy them." They're like, "Go for it." The new company said, "No, you can't go downstairs and buy them. You have to go to corporate." I'm like, "Okay, I know corporate's like 5 blocks away in Manhattan. I'll walk." Okay, I walk there, I go there and I go, "Hey, listen," because they said, "No, you can't even call them on the phone. You actually have to go there, bring the paperwork yourself." It was weird. So I go there and I go, "Hey, I need these. I got a drawing to do." They're like, "Okay, we'll get back to you." I'm like, "Get back to me? What do you mean?" "Oh, yeah, don't worry." You know when they got back to me? 4 p.m.
Oh no.
4 p.m. and it had to be done the next day. And so when I came back, I went downstairs. By the time I got everything done at the store, I bought it. I came back, it's 4:30. And then my boss turns around and goes, so you're just getting started on that? I said, yeah. And I told him the story. He goes, okay. He goes, okay. But what they didn't know is that I was freelancing at a different architectural firm, and I had to leave by 5:30.
Oh,
So, and I was like, okay, see you guys tomorrow. They're like, where are you going? You got to stay here and do these drawings. I said, no, I don't. Goodbye. I'll see you tomorrow. I finished it. It was supposed to be done by 4. I finished it by 2 because I knew how to draw really quick. But it was that kind of attitude that got me sick of, listen, I'm going to go beyond and do everything for you guys, but you are not helping me. The previous company did. The new one was like, nope. So I said, you know what? I'm out. And
yep.
that's the last big corporation I ever worked for.
Yeah, I hear you. That's the same thing with me. It was just after a while, corporate world was just, this is just not for me. There's got to be something better. Let's go find it.
Yeah, yeah. For me, that was back in 1992. I'm sorry. Yeah, 90, 91, 92. So quite a little while ago.
Yep, mine was 2012 is when I
There you
left
go.
corporate world. Yep, right before I turned 50. Actually,
There you go.
my goal was to do something different by the time I was 50, and sure enough, dream came true.
I love what you just said, my goal.
Mhm.
And a lot of people don't set goals. They don't set goals for that real freedom that we want. We say, hey, you know, when I retire, when I do this, but they're not setting how to retire. They're not doing their financial freedom steps that they should be doing. So tell us, you decided to go into franchising.
Correct.
Why was that one avenue that you chose instead of saying, hey, I'm going to start my own business? I'm not going to go do something that somebody already did. I got to pay fees. I got to do all these things. Why go into your not do like for me, I went into my own businesses. I have several, and for me, it was easy. Why did you choose franchising?
Great question, Sifu. So when I was an engineer, I read and I got my bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and physics, became a microelectronic circuit engineer. While I was doing that, I got a master's degree in business. And when I was getting my master's degree, I read Robert Kiyosaki's books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So it kind of
Great
ruined
book.
my corporate career to begin with. But it got me thinking that there's different things to do. So I partnered with another engineer, and we actually bought dry cleaners, privately owned dry cleaners,
Mm,
storage units, had rental properties, and all that. So I already done the private thing as on the side while I was being an engineer. But as far as franchising goes, that started way back when I was in high school. So
really?
back in the late 70s, most of us got jobs at fast food places. I just happened to pick Taco Bell for whatever reason. I have no idea why at this point in time, too long ago. Memory's not that good. But that Taco Bell that I worked for, the lady that owned it was actually a master franchiser, and she owned about 50
Mm,
Taco Bells throughout the Sacramento, California, Woodland, California area, and I lived in Woodland, California. I moved up in her ranks and started
mm,
becoming a manager, and that's when I learned that she was a master franchiser, and this was a franchise. It was great. I could go in there and help her build up any restaurant that she had in her area, and they had a playbook, a step-by-step playbook. This is exactly what you got to do. So I went on to manage more restaurants there, did restaurant management for quite some time before I got my degree. But then when I got out of corporate world, and I'd already done the private business thing, and that was a big challenge, I got to tell you, because you don't know anything about dry cleaning. You buy dry cleaners, and you and your buddy are sitting there like, "What's next? What do we do? How do we do this?" Well, let's figure it out together. We're engineers. What the heck? We'll figure it out.
right.
So it was a bit of a challenge. So when I got out of corporate world, uh, what I did is I just sold my half of everything to the other guy. He got out at the same time. So I sold my half of everything to him. He took over the private businesses. And then I was thinking, the private business for me, compared to the franchise business that I was into, I said, I really need to look back into that franchise thing because that was pretty easy, pretty simple to get
Mm,
into and just
right.
follow the policies and procedures that, the franchisor has laid out for you. So I said, I'm going to go find me a franchise on that. So that's what got me into going back into franchising. I got a franchise, ran that for a while. But when I was looking for franchises, very difficult, very confusing, because many
Mm,
different franchises out there. I came across a couple of franchise consultants that helped me out to figure out which one was right for me. So after I did my franchise for a while, I was started thinking that, that franchise consulting thing, that's really cool. You get to help out a whole bunch of different people throughout the United States. Again, set your own schedule. I said, I gotta learn how to do that. So I sold off my franchise, went back to my franchise consultant friends and said, I like what you do. Teach me what you do. And that was 12 years ago, and I haven't looked back since.
Wow, wow. What was that first franchise that you went for?
Schooley Mitchell Telecommunications Consulting franchise. That really set the stage for me for what franchising was all about. I already knew it was good when I worked for Taco Bell, but then when I got in with Dennis Schooley, it was the training that he provided was just simply amazing. We helped businesses with their telecommunications needs, basically cost-cutting measures, cost-saving measures on
Mm,
that. And Dennis just had that plan. He had like 100 different ways to get clients. This is what you do when you talk to them. This is
wow.
how you go about it. This is how we save it. And he's gotten into more and more cost savings in all sorts of different areas since then. But he really set the stage for it. But it was great because then I could work from home, go out and visit with business owners. Love working with business people. They're just awesome to work with. And then again, set my own schedule, do what I wanted to do. If I wanted to go out and make money, I went out and made money. If I didn't want to go out and make money, I didn't. I just stayed home. So set my own schedule on it.
I love it. One of the things in your book, you talked about how some people, especially if they were a new manager in a franchise, and they thought they can do it better. They can do it. Why are they doing it like this? I got a better idea. And then that franchise would start losing money. And you would have to actually go in there and fix it, make things, set the ship right. So why is that important to follow those SOPs? And I don't mean SOBs, I mean SOPs.
Gotcha, Sifu. Gotcha on that. So the franchise has already gone through all the necessary or unnecessary mistakes that they've done. So
Mm,
they've gone through, and that's why you're investing in a franchise because they've already gone through that. They made the mistakes, got those out of the way, know what to avoid. You follow this procedure, these outline procedures, step by step procedures. You're never guaranteed to success, but your success is you're more apt to be successful if you follow their plan than if you don't. So get to know it at first and get in there and do what they tell you to do. Now, you can be creative as you want to. Some of my
mm,
people I put into franchising started being creative right away. Not a good thing. Franchisers got that proven model. That's what you're paying for. Do that. They'll let you do it. One of my ladies who got into a tutoring franchise, she was in Las Vegas. She was in the gaming industry, vice president of some hotels and motels, and she wanted to hit up the hotels and motels because this franchise had never done that before. She
mm.
said, "Well, I think that'd just be a great thing to do." And they're like, "Well, we've never done it before. I don't know if it'll work or not, but go for it." As it turned out, it didn't work out quite as well as she'd hoped. So she got kind of a slow start on that. So she went back to doing exactly what they said to do. So it's always good. And keep in mind, that's what you're paying for. They've made the mistakes before. They've got that plan to make you as successful as possible. So follow that plan. Once you learned it, that's how you help the franchise grow, is that you start thinking about other things, trying other things. After you've got that money coming in, you got that steady flow. Now you want to be more creative, go for it. Try different things. I do the same thing. I try and be creative. I call it about every quarter or so, I think about, well, who am I going to donate money to this quarter?
Mm.
Because sometimes things work, sometimes things don't work. So
Right.
it's my donation of, which different organization am I going to try to help me generate interest in my business? So I try different things.
I love the way you said, who am I going to donate to this month?
Yeah.
By the way, Mandy Robinson, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you. When we consider franchise fees and all these things, and I think that scares so many people. For example, I personally looked at a franchise, and this particular franchise, they're no longer around because their model was you have to have you have to buy into the franchise, but every year you have to open up another location. That was mandatory. And when something like that happens, it 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 kind of scares people. And I said, I don't know if because you had to have it had to be 10,000 square feet. It had to have this, and it was one of these play areas. And it's funny because there was one in my neighborhood, and they said, "Hey, yeah, you can buy one up the block." And I'm like, "Oh, there's no protection. There's no okay. I get that part. They want to expand. I get that." But when I looked deeper into it, I said, they need you to buy one, open a new one every year, every 12 months. You had no choice. And so I said to myself, what if you have a slow start? What if you don't have all the funds to start that again? What do you do then? You have these penalties you have to pay. So I'm like, and then they can take away your franchise after you paid all this money to get into it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to pass. And it's funny because for the longest time, I saw it and it looked empty, it looked empty, it looked empty. And it's been empty for years now. And recently I passed by it and I saw a new sign. I was like, oh, something moved into its place. But so a lot of times, I think this is why you are such a key player in helping someone understand and navigate, I guess, the valleys, if you will, right, of owning a franchise.
Absolutely. So those are the things that we look into as well. So along the way, I basically look at where have you been? So what are you bringing to the table? What are your past experiences? How are you going to benefit that franchise? And is that franchise something that's looking for somebody with your background and experience? Where are you at now? So what kind of time do you have to invest? What kind of money do you have to invest? What are you comfortable investing? And then where do you want to be 5 to 10 years from now? So we can match up your goals on there. But we're going to look into that franchise along the way together. We're going to investigate it. So as you're saying, Sifu, as we start looking into it, if that franchise says, you're going to have to open up a new one every year, then I work with my clients. So I'm like, is this something that you envision 5 to 10 years from now that you're going to be opening one every, year, or are you good with just that one unit? That's all I want. We'll stick with that. I got to tell you, there's not many franchises that require you to open one a year on that one. When you're doing something like that, that is what we call an area developer type franchise on that, where you agree ahead of time that you're going to pick up a certain area and you're going to pick how many units you're going to open, and they give you a schedule to open them on that. But not too many require that. But all those things we will find out along the way. So I have questions for the franchisors and the franchisees for you. So you can go through all sorts of questions, specifically how much can you make, how soon can you get there, and what do you got to do to get it. And we'll have CPAs for you to talk to, funding people to talk to, and most importantly, that franchise attorney who's going to look over that franchise agreement and is going to make absolutely certain you know what you are getting yourself into and you are good with it.
If you went into a franchise without any attorneys or anything like that, you can be asking for so much trouble, right?
Yes, because this is a legal commitment you're making. 5 to 10 years is generally the franchise agreement period on that. And since you're signing a legal document, you really want to have that franchise attorney look it over. Now, there's not a lot that can be changed on that, so they're not going to be negotiating all sorts of different things. There's a few things that can change on that. The most important thing about having that franchise attorney is they've seen so many franchise agreements and franchise disclosure documents that they know when something's out of place. So if they see that you're required to open a new unit every year, they're going to tell you that is not common. That is highly strange on that. And if you're not having a protected territory, so if somebody else can come in, you're on one block and somebody else is on another block, they're going to tell you that's bizarre. That's out of the ordinary. Go back to your franchise consultant, tell them no, thanks, or if you're okay with that, go for it. But that's what that franchise attorney is going to do, is going to tell you what's different, what's out of place, what's strange about that, and make certain that you're okay with that.
Right. So Mandy Robinson says, is this only available in the US? And I believe that you help people all over, right?
Correct. I help people all over the world, whether it be anywhere in the world. Some franchises will go anywhere in the world. And then on the flip side of that, is if somebody's somewhere else in the world and they want to come to the US and get an E2 or an EB5 visa, we do that as well. So anywhere in the world, I can help you.
One of the things that really struck me about you, you're so giving. You're so giving because you actually help people and you don't charge them. How on earth are you doing that?
So what we do, no franchise consultant should be charging you. We don't do that on a regular basis. The franchisors pay us a referral fee if you decide to invest in one of the franchises we introduce you to
Makes sense.
on that. So we've got to be good at what we do in order to get paid. Because if we're putting franchises in front of you, they've got to be something that's a good fit for you that do that. But yes, mine is more about education. That's why I wrote the book. That's why I went all that, put all that information on my website. We've got my due diligence procedures on the website, 7 mistakes on my website, all sorts of different things to educate you. Whether or not you choose to do it by yourself or you choose to reach out to me and have me help you, that's entirely up to you. But that information is there. I just try and be as helpful as I can, get as much education out there as I can, and then let you decide if you'd like to reach out to me, get more information and work together.
Yeah, so everybody can see here we have franchisemaven.com. And Mandy wants to know what's the name of your book. Do you have your book? I left it home, man. So yeah, he's going to grab the book, Mandy. And when you consider everything that you're talking about, there it is, Real Freedom. That's the name of the book. So great. I got to tell you, and I was telling you before we started how much I'm enjoying reading your book. And it's actually a book that's enjoyable to read. Some books it's just so dry. Right? It's like, oh, so dry. But you want to read them because you want the information, but you deliver it in such a fun way. So thank you. Great reading your book. And Mandy, if you get a chance, definitely pick it up. And where can we pick up your book?
Well, actually, if you go to that website right there, on the very front page, you can just download a PDF version. If you don't want to go to Amazon and pick up a copy and you don't mind reading a PDF version, go in there, click on that. I'll send you out the PDF version for free. Send me your address if you want a hard copy or kind of soft copy, and I'll send you one. I do that to everybody that asks for one.
That's incredible. Like I said, you're so giving.
I love it. It's fun.
Yeah. So in order to become a broker like yourself, and I'm not saying that's something I want to do because I'm so busy doing so many different crazy fun things, but you and I are going to probably be working together when you are going to help me um, create my franchise, right? Because that's something that we talked about, and you do that as well. So when we consider if somebody wanted to do what you do, it's not so easy necessarily because one of the things that you said you're educational more than anything. You help people understand, and so that makes you a great teacher when you think of it. And when you consider the lessons that people need to pay attention to, it's the ones about how not to do the wrong thing, how to learn from those who have succeeded, right?
Correct. Absolutely. Those franchises have succeeded. They've done it in the past. They've reproduced it. And that's why you get involved with them. That's why you pay the money.
Yeah. I've had a couple of clients. I had one guy who had 3 different food type of franchises. He had Dunkin' Donuts. He had, and by the way, Dunkin' Donuts is not paying me, but I wouldn't mind some coffee. He had Popeyes, and then he had, I think he had Taco Bell too.
Cool.
And what wound up happening is this guy was opening them left and right, left and right. So he just kept growing and growing and growing. I lost touch with him about 12 years ago because I think he kept everything working here and he went back to his country. And what wound up happening is I still see those franchises. Sometimes when I drive around, I'm like, oh, and I know them.
Good.
And so I've had different customers who've owned franchises, 7-Elevens. I've had many clients who own those. I had one guy recently, he's a client of mine. He owns 3, and they're within 5 miles of each other, 7-Elevens. And I'm like, why they're so close? He goes, it's easy, it's convenient. And they all make money. Every one of his 7-Elevens makes money. So it's a beautiful thing, right?
Very true. Very true. If you keep, and most franchises kind of like you to keep them close by, so you can just stop by. You don't have to run them all full time yourself. Like your people are running those semi-passive. Some other managers are running them for you. But even if they're semi-passive, you're putting in 10 to 15 hours a week. It's good to keep them within about, 30, 60-mile radius so you can stop by them. And you are the face of that business in there. You're the local owner of those businesses. And that's always a good thing.
Yeah. So if you had to say, what's the number one franchise in the world? I mean, we all know the Golden Arches. I mean, they started this whole thing, right?
Yeah,
what would you
somewhat. I would say, Sifu, it's hard to say if you're just talking about, vast numbers and all that. Sure, yeah, McDonald's is probably one of your top ones. If you're talking about what's the number one franchise to you, that's a whole other story. Because you can make lots of money off of many different franchises. It doesn't have to be brick and mortar. There's some service type franchises where you can make just as much or more than you can with those brick and mortar franchises, like McDonald's and that sort of thing on there, and spend $150,000 for an investment on that. So the number one franchise is, of course, probably McDonald's out there. I think they're on the top of the list. Chick-fil-A is another one, but it's kind of a vague representation of a franchise. And those are just the big brick and mortar ones. But the ones that are important to you, the things that are important to you, you've got to consider those. Because with something like a McDonald's or Chick-fil-A, you're running those full time, pretty much, unless you're an area developer where you have many of them. Chick-fil-A wants you there, Monday through Saturday inside that restaurant working. And that may not be the number one franchise for you, because now you don't have the necessary freedom. Like I was working. Yeah, you're in that. Don't get me wrong. It's, almost everybody loves Chick-fil-A. I don't want to be too vague on that, but people love that. It's good food, good people, good business, but it may not be for you if you don't want to be working full time. So number one franchise is going to vary if you take a look at what is important to you and what you want out of life and what you want out of that franchise. I would say, depending on your likes and dislikes, essential services, if you want to get into something that's really, risk level is low, is go with something that is in essential services: plumbing, heating, air conditioning, electrical services, restoration services, senior care.
Can you go into those even though you don't have any experience in them? Like I'm not a plumber. I do my own plumbing for myself, but if somebody said, "Hey, can you come to my house?" I'm like, "No." All right. I wouldn't go to somebody else's house to do their plumbing, but I can take care of my own. If it's a huge project, I would hire somebody. So if HVAC, I don't know anything about that. So can I get a franchise in that? And would I have to learn or become certified in that?
Absolutely not. So you're going to be hiring, what are you going to do, like plumbing and electrical work? You are going to be hiring a master plumber or master electrician. They're going to be the ones that are going to have that certification for you. And more to the point, with a lot of these franchises, you don't want to be the one, and the franchisors don't want you to be the one that's working in that business and doing the actual work. They prefer to have business owners, business people working on that business, working on that franchise and building it up on there. Because if you're working in the business, you're not out there building up the business on that. So hire somebody else to do all that. And no, you don't have to know how to do all that. I got a lot of, people that invest in real estate that have come to me over the years, and they've dealt with all these things before. So they know about them, but they're not the ones that do it. But they love getting into it because it's a great addition to the real estate business they're already doing. And they've already worked with, electricians, plumbers, air conditioning people. So it's an easy transition for them, but they never work in the business. They never do any of that work. And really, for the majority of the franchises, you're not going to be doing the actual work unless you absolutely want to. So there are franchises where, yes, if you want to absolutely, you just love doing that work, you don't mind not building it up to something massive where you've got all sorts of people, working for you. You just like getting your hands dirty, basically, and getting there and doing the work. Plenty of franchises will let you do that and go right ahead. You probably won't be, making millions of dollars every year or anything like that because you're doing the work and not building on the business. But a lot of people are okay with that. They don't need that much money. They just really want to keep busy. They want to do something they love, and they like getting in there and working with their hands.
Beautiful, beautiful. I want to share this with you, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about what this all means to all of us. Here we go.
Welcome to Speaking Prowess, where we believe in the power of communication to transform lives. If you're ready to take your communication skills to the next level, then mark your calendars for April 5th, because we've got something special for you. We have a lineup of some of the most influential communication experts in the industry. These are the voices that will guide you on a journey to enhance your ability to connect, influence, and succeed. At Speaking Prowess, our mission is clear: to empower you through effective communication. We know that mastering the art of communication isn't just about what you say. It's about how you say it and the impact it has on every aspect of your life. So take action now. Join us on April 5th and unlock your full speaking potential. Reserve your spot today and get ready to embark on a journey towards personal and professional growth. See you at the masterclass on April 5th.
I am so happy to be sharing that with everybody. And I know a lot of people are excited about our masterclass happening on April 5th. And that's something that when you consider the communication that we have to have, not only as if we're getting into a franchise or we actually need to hire experts, because let's say I decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to go with that Roto-Rooter company, right? They do plumbing and all that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, what if I hire somebody and they don't follow the guidelines because, hey, I'm the master technician in this thing and you know nothing? How do you deal with something like that? Obviously, you can fire them, but how do you rein them in so they can follow the protocols, do what the franchise wants?
You'll train them as part of the entire system on that, and the franchisors have always have dealt with all those sort of things in the past, so they'll have a plan of action for you under any kind of conditions that may happen with that, and you'll get a good feel for just how often that happens because you'll talk with many other franchisees along the way before you get involved in that franchise system. So they'll all have a plan of action. They'll tell you this is how we work with them, this is how we train them, this is how we make sure they follow the steps and the proper procedures that the franchisor outlines, and they'll do all that for you. Complete, absolute follow-up from the franchisor and training and continuous training on that.
Yeah, beautiful. So do you have like a list of companies? So if like, for example, Mandy Robinson is here. She definitely wants your book. She wants information. She's asking a lot of great questions here. Let me tell you one that she said. Here's one. Would we recommend franchises to you, or would you do that?
Well, I do that. Basically, what we do, Mandy, is that we'll get to know each other. On our first phone call, you'll ask me anything you want about myself or about franchising, and I'll kind of get a feel for what you're looking to get out of that franchise, just to make certain that we're on the right track with you on that one, and you don't have any expectations that the franchisor cannot, that the franchisors in general cannot fulfill. Like you're going to be a millionaire in a year. Okay, that's just not going to happen. So we'll make certain that we get all those little things out of the way first on that. That's the first phone call. I just want you to be comfortable with me, and not hang up the phone on me and say I'm never going to talk to this dude again. We want to just get past that point so that we can have our next phone call on that. The next phone call, before we have that, I'll send you out some information on myself, a little matrix of business types to get you thinking about the different types of franchises. I'll have you fill out a questionnaire. And then on our next phone call, it's going to be all about you, half hour, going through the questionnaire, going through the matrix of business types, getting a feel for what you're looking for, what you're trying to accomplish. So I'm trying to get to know you as well as I can. And then after gathering all that information, then I go out and I'll find 5 or 10 different franchise opportunities where the franchisors are looking for people like you. You're looking for the people like the franchisors. Franchisors have territory available in your area, and they know they'll do good in that area. So we have certain demographics that we look for. And then that's what I do. I go through all that and come up with those opportunities for you, send you out my little one-pager on each one, and that you get a chance to get a feel for them. We get together again after that, go through each one of those opportunities, try and narrow it down to about 2 or 3 different opportunities that you feel good about. That you look at that and say, I could really see myself doing something like that, all things considered. And then we start the franchise investigation process together. I introduce you to those franchisors. You meet with them on a regular basis, usually about once a week. We'll get back together again once a week, talk about what you've learned, making sure you're getting your questions answered to your satisfaction, making sure we're on the right track with you. If so, we continue. If not, we tell them no, thank you. We move on to another one until that point comes where you are comfortable with it, you feel good about them, have the franchise attorney look it over, get you whatever funding you need, have a CPA look over the numbers, all that good stuff. Then you decide whether or not you want to get involved in that franchise.
Very interesting. So you did just mention something that I want to touch upon. You said get that funding you may need. Should we not have enough money in the bank when we even start looking? Or do we say, oh, I'm going to go into it and, I have some money, but I don't have enough to afford that. And then I go looking for funding. To explain that to us, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. So a lot of my investors love using other people's money. As long as the investment services the debt, they're good at using other people's money on that. That's about half of them. The other half would just prefer not to go into debt on that and use their own money for that. So they'll sell, like when we talked about earlier, what are you comfortable investing in a franchise? So half of those people will say, I'm only comfortable investing in what I have. So we'll stick with franchises that go with that. Now, what you have, if you have, like, say, a 401k plan from a previous employer or an IRA, we can roll one of those into a self-directed plan for you where you can use that money to invest in a franchise. So you're not going into debt. You're using your own money to do that. So you can go either way on that one. And that's going to be really a personal decision, whether you like using other people's money or whether you want to use your own money to invest in that franchise.
Wow. I can't even stump you, my friend. I'm trying. But you're so well informed, and you're such an easy guy to definitely work with. And I know that when I'm ready to do our franchise here, you're going to be the first person I ever call anyway. But when we consider if somebody wants to buy a franchise, and you said a lot of people think like, oh, I'm going to buy a franchise, I'm going to be a millionaire. And some franchises, it costs you $1 million to get in, like a McDonald's, because you have to have certain working capital. You have to be able to either buy the building, lease the building, whatever it is. So we know that there's very high-end franchises, but are there low-end franchises? Can you get into a franchise for a couple of $1,000s? And what's the lowest that you've heard?
I have heard of some that are like about in the $3,000-$4,000 range on those. I generally don't work with those because since they're so easy to get into, those ones generally don't have any territory restrictions. So anybody can get one anywhere. So you have a lot of competition with that. They're not necessarily bad, not necessarily good. They're just different that way. Generally speaking, most of the franchises that I work with, actually most of the franchises in the US, you're going to have a one-time franchise fee of around $50,000, give or take on that. They're just right around that for the most ones that I work with. And about most of them throughout the United States are around that as well. And then you have your ongoing royalties, between 5 and 10%. But for a good franchise, if you're looking into a service industry, you're probably going to be looking at, the lowest you can probably get into is probably between $50,000 and $100,000. You can get into quite a few good ones for under $100,000. You pay the franchise fee, you work from home, you go out and visit with your clients. The only other expense you're going to have then is advertising and marketing on that. So it'll be $50,000 plus whatever advertising and marketing you need to do. And then, if you need any equipment or anything like that, a lot of good franchises in that range. Those are the service industry franchises that we're talking about. And again, with my School of Mitchell franchise that we talked about earlier, that franchise fee was $50,000, and that was under $100,000 investment. Everything after that I did, it was just advertising and marketing I did for that one. Great people, great system on that. But services industry, generally around $150,000 total investment, give or take, depending on what equipment that you may need. Small office will get you up over the 100 range. No office at all, again, under the $100,000 range. Great opportunities out there.
So there are some franchises that do require you to get all this equipment, like an automotive, like an Mako, for example, transmission place or anything like that. That's a big franchise. And those, obviously, that fee is probably part of what it is to get involved, like all the machinery.
Correct, Sifu. So two different fees. When you're looking at a franchise and they're getting into it, there's going to be your individual franchise fee that you're going to see there. They're also going to list out their total investment. So that's what you're looking for. Is you're looking for what is that total investment on that franchise, which will include the franchise fee and then anything else that you need to purchase along the way. I mentioned franchise disclosure documents before. A lot of good information in those on there. It's going to have what they call their total investment, item number 7 in the franchise disclosure documents, and it's going to break down that total investment for you of who you pay what to and when on that.
Mm.
And it's vary. So when you look at some of these franchises, you see, the total investment is $175,000. Well, what's the variation? It depends on what city you're in. If you're over there with Sifu in New York, it's going to be $175,000. If you're out here with me in
235.
if you're out here in the middle of nowhere with me, it's only going to be 100,000 because the things aren't too expensive out here. Uh, so that's going to be the variance, but that's going to be listed in there, and they'll go over all that equipment you may need. So if you're getting into like a restoration franchise, you're going to need some fans on that to clean out. You're going to have a vehicle, so you're probably going to get the vehicle wrapped with your logo on there so that all the neighbors know who you are when you go over there, part of your advertising marketing. So those little things will start adding up, and you'll see that in the again in the franchise disclosure document, and it'll be listed under total investment for the franchise.
Wow, so much to take in. So let me ask you a question. A lot of people will say, hey, they'll tell their kids, go work at a McDonald's or Burger King or one of these places, fast food places. And so everybody believes that all teenagers are working in this franchise. They have one adult manager and that's it. And they're like, wow, I can do that. I can hire a bunch of teens to run my business. How realistic is that?
It depends on what franchise you get into. Yeah, if you get into a Taco Bell or McDonald's or something like that, that would probably be your best bet. Now, back when I was doing it, that's all I had working for me was college students, high school students, and then bored housewives. I had a lot of bored housewives that just needed something to do and a little extra money on that. So
Right.
nobody was looking for a living wage. These days, I hear a lot about living wages, which is a little challenge. But to your point, it just depends on the franchise. And that's one of the questions that I'll ask people too is what kind of employees you're looking for. Do you want less skilled employees? Do you want more skilled employees? There's no good or bad either way. The less skilled you have, generally speaking, more turnover that you're going to have, but the easier it is to find them.
Right.
More skilled, a little bit more of a challenge to find them, less turnover that you have. You pay a little bit more for them. So it's just who do you feel comfortable working with?
Yeah. Yeah. I do see a lot of times when I go into certain stores, and you can tell it's a franchise type of store. And I'm not talking about fast food, other types of stores. And the service that you get sometimes is terrible. And I'm like, I wonder if anybody even knows what's happening and how they're treating their clients. Because I'm sure the franchisee would say, whoa, you can't treat my clients that way. Because without those clients, I can't pay your salary. And so, how important is it to oversee operations?
That's the biggest thing. When you're doing a semi-absentee type business where you're not there all the time, you need to make certain that you do stop by every once in a while. There's also a lot of, I'm sure people have seen it out there, secret shoppers that go out there. So you want to send people in there every once in a while that nobody knows about just to see what the experience is like. And you want to pay a little extra to have somebody come in there and making certain that everybody's being treated correctly at all sorts of different hours on that. But that's very important to make certain that you keep your people happy because, as you said, those clients or those customers are paying your bills. So you want to make sure you have the right people for it. Secret shoppers is generally what we did back in the Taco Bell days, where people
Mhm.
would come in. We'd get reports every once in a while, usually about once a month, once every couple of weeks, from the lady that owned all 50 of those. She would send secret shoppers in, and she would give us an evaluation on how each restaurant was doing based on those secret shoppers. So we had to stay on our toes all the time. You never knew when somebody's going to come in and check you out.
That's right. You never do know when somebody, but you know what? You lose clients because there's been places I've been to, and I said, I'm never coming back. And it's because the way I was treated. And so sometimes what I've done is, if it's a place I've gone to and it was a one time off, they treated me bad and it was a different employee or something like that, I would actually, because as a business owner, I would want to know. So I reach out to the business owners and I go, hey, did you know that I had a really bad experience at your place? And they're like, whoa, thank you so much for telling me. But a lot of people don't do that because all they do is they write them off and they
That's
just,
true.
they write bad reviews first, you know?
Yeah, people will write bad reviews more often than they'll write good reviews on the
Correct.
negative. You see that, and most people will just not come back again. I mean, there won't be any question about it. So it's always good if you got them, if you have employees, if you got something that's you're out there working with the general public, you you need to have a good franchise system in place that takes those things into consideration and then has a plan of action for you to check up on people and get reviews for your place of business, whatever it is, on a regular basis on that, because you always want to make certain that you're good with the people. And you, as a business owner, want to get out there and get involved in your community as well, even if you're working as semi absentee. That's why I say they don't always need you. You want you working in the business, because if you're working on the business and you're out there getting involved in that community, then you hear from those people in the community about your business. You not only let them know that you're the face of that business itself, but now you'll get feedback because now you're
Mm.
involved in the community, whether it be Chamber of Commerce, whether it be Business Networking International meetings, anything like that, where you can get out there and get involved in that community. You'll get feedback from your community about your business.
Yeah. And so it's important to always, like you said, have a presence. I got to tell you, Greg, this has been so much fun, so informative. I can talk to you all day, my friend. So I am so happy you and I are connected. Let's keep that going. Everybody who, if you know anyone who wants to move on and maybe even change careers and say, you know what, I want real freedom, reach out to Greg. Gotta reach out and maybe send them this video, send them this link. This is a great episode. So thank you so much for being here. And I know you're not going to just stop at this show. You got 4 other shows to come on and we'll talk some more. So everybody have yourself an exceptional day. Greg, thank you again, my friend. It's been great.
Appreciate you having me, Sifu. I'm very honored to be on your show today.
Thank you, my friend. Enjoy.